Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel for another episode of Flea Market Finds, and this is stuff I picked at the outdoor flea market on August 24th. And let's reposition the camera and dive right in. Alright, one of the first buys of the day, there was a guy there who had one of those electronics toolkits. It's like almost like a suitcase. I had an Exolite one of those back in the day. It was quite expensive. And I happened to notice that in the case there was this brand new Weller soldering iron. It's a 60 watt pencil iron. And I just asked the guy, says, hey, would you take $5 for the soldering iron? And he said, sure. So I can always use that. I mean, it cost me like $5 for a new tip for my current one, so why not? Also for $5, I found this genuine Leatherman. This is the Leatherman Wingman. So all the Leathermans that I've collected, I don't think I have a Wingman. So those of you who know multi-tools know the Leatherman name. It's really popular. $5 is a good deal for that though. One of the regulars that I see there who has a lot of automotive tools, he was getting rid of a lot of his stuff. He's kind of winding down for the end of the season, I guess. And I happen to spot this little kit right here. I believe these are tools for auto body technicians to remove like the clips and that on door panels and things like that. And I noticed that this tool right here is a snap-on tool. I think this might actually be for removing crank handles for crank windows, manual windows. So I don't know if that's even useful anymore. But I actually bought this for my son. He works for an auto body shop, and I took a chance on it. This is genuine snap-on also, and this funky thing here is also genuine snap-on. So I got this little kit here for $15. And I told my son, I said, hey, if it's something you can use, fine. If not, I'm sure I can get my $15 back from somebody for it. Also for $15, I scored this 4-jaw chuck. I believe it's a Dunlap. No chuck key with it. Yeah, it says right here on the front Dunlap. So this is not a really high-end chuck. This would be a chuck that would have been used on a home hobbyist type of lathe. And in fact, I noticed it seems to have a lot of sawdust caked on it. So I think somebody may have even been using this to turn wood. And I found these at a dealer's spot. This is all he had of interest to me was these two little pullers. These two pullers were for watch hands or clock hands. He actually thought this was a pretty early one, but I actually thought this was the neater of the two. I got these two for $8. Then I found a dealer who had a bunch of new old stock hardware stuff, and on the table was this box. And I spotted right away that these were Nicholson Swiss pattern files, and they're new old stock. And I was like, oh, I could definitely resell those. So I asked for a price on the files, and we ended up settling on that if I took a lot of them, I could get them for $1 a piece, which led to them like starting to count up how many were in here. And then finally, the young lady who was counting them all up, she said, let's just do $35 for the lot. And I said, sure. So I got these Nicholson pattern files here. There's 12 in this box. And then these. So these are Simmons, but they're good USA made files. And then the rest of these are all Nicholson. They also had some Exolite stuff. They had 2 boxes with, at least 25 each of these long Exolite screwdrivers. So one box was the Phillips, the X1020s, and the other box was the regular blade. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the name Exolite, Exolite was considered to be a pretty good quality hand tool manufacturer, predominant in the electronics industry. So when I had my repair shop years ago, I had a lot of Exolite hand tools and found them to be quite superior. The issue with Exolite tools, if there was one, is the type of plastic that these handles are made out of is the type of plastic that when it ages, it gives off a type of gas that is the same type of gas that's present in vomit. So they have a very distinct puke smell to them, which these do not seem to have, but it's not unusual for them to start smelling like that. So that's the only bad thing about them. I took the last of what they had sitting there for the Exolite cutters. So these are general purpose cutter, 5-inch. Got 3 pairs of those, and these are all $1 a piece, so $5 for these 5 items. So then they brought these out. They hadn't even put a price on them yet because they were starting to tag stuff with prices, and I noticed they had 2 of them, and I said, well, how much are those? And she said, oh, they're $10 each. And I said, how about the 2 for $15? And they said, sold. So I got 2 of these for $15. So this is it's a bench tool that allows you to mount your Dremel tool on your bench so you can have both hands free for polishing and whatnot. And unlike some of the newer stuff you get these days, this is actually cast metal. So this is actually pretty good quality. And there's the holder. So this is plastic, but the base is cast metal, and it gives you the ability to swivel it to any position and lock it. And the other one here is identical. And after I bought those, she said we also have these. So these catalog number 233 universal stand, much more generic looking box. What's in here is another rubber feet are falling off, so I'm just going to take them off so I don't lose them. Another one of these Dremel stands. This has got the kind of neat Dremel, the old style Dremel label on it. Whereas the other one, this part is plastic. On this one, it's all cast metal. So these are kind of neat. And then I forgot what she told me the price was on these, but I told her, I said, how about I take all 4 for 20? They had them, oh yeah, they already had prices on it. They already had these priced for $10 a piece. And I said, I'll give you $5 a piece and I'll take all 4 of them. And she said, sure. So I got these for $5 a piece. I was walking by a table and I saw a woman happen to be looking at this, what looked to me like a brand new quick pot, okay? So we have one of these already, and we like it. So it's basically, it's a pressure cooker, but now they call them quick pots, and there's a bazillion recipes online for how to use your quick pot to make all different kinds of things, and cooks quickly because it uses pressure cooking technology, you know. But anyways, she noticed that the handle was broken, and he said, yeah, he said he thinks he actually broke the handle when he was bringing it to the show. So as soon as she saw the handle was broken, she lost interest in it, even though he was willing to sell it for $2. So as soon as she walked away, I walked over to it, took a look at it, realized that everything is perfectly fine. This does appear to have been used at some point, but it's not, doesn't look like it's had much use. So I bought this actually for my other son, who he's living in an apartment with a bunch of guys, and they're always on the lookout for more utensils, plates, you know, whatnot, pots. And I just figured, well, he probably doesn't have one of these, so why not? Then there was a guy there who I've never seen at the show before, and he had 2 tables loaded with machinist tools. I mean, he just had a ton of stuff. He had little stickers with prices on everything. And, well, case in point, he had $15 on this. So this, oddly enough, he didn't notice that these were stare-it punches. It says so right there. So he probably would have put a higher price on these at $15, because when I opened them up and I was looking at them, I noticed that this one is snapped. So I asked him, I pointed out the snapped punch, and then I said, boy, I said, I wonder how somebody must have broke that. They must have been using it for prying. He said, yeah, maybe. He says, I didn't even notice that. And I said, well, I says, how about $10 for it? And he said, yeah, I don't even know who makes them. And then I said, well, they're Starrett. I said, at least I think they are. And I started to take them out and check them. And then that's when he kind of like got all like, oh, well, he said, you know, they are Starrett. And I said, well, I said, yeah, but one's broken. And so that's what made me realize that he was regretting that he put a price of $15 on there. But he ended up taking my 10, because I think at that point he probably wasn't having a really good day sales-wise. And I don't really know the guy, but I was just thinking to myself, looking at some of the prices he had on some of the things that I've sold before, and thinking, I can't get that from my buyers online, where prices are higher. There's no way he's going to get that kind of money here at the flea market. Then I went back to the table where I got the Dremel holders and the files and stuff, and started looking around and realized that they had a lot of these new old stock Stanley chisels. And I said to them, I said, well, I said, how about if I buy quantity, like 10, you go $1 a piece on the chisels. And they were selling them for $2 a piece, so they said, yeah, okay, I could get 10 for $10, right? So I started picking through and realizing, well, the first ones I grabbed were, there was only two of the ones that belong in this box left in the box. So I grabbed the box with those two and then added to it. So we got some caping chisels and some offset chisels. These are all good Stanley chisels, new old stock. And then I noticed these punches sitting there, these Stanley punches, and they said, yeah, they definitely want to stick to $2 a piece on the punches. So I was like, okay. And then they had a box there loaded with sleeves like this of these tweezers. But what caught my eye was that these tweezers are Swiss made. So I can't quite make out the name on them, but they look like they say R-U-B-I-S, Rubis, Switzerland. So unfortunately they're all identical, so it's not like a variety pack of different shapes and sizes. But I did get this for $5. And the last three items were dirt cheap indeed. The guy had cleaned out an estate of somebody who, I don't know if they worked at a college or taught at a college or worked in a lab or what, but he had a bunch of laboratory equipment, old stuff. And I was fishing through a box of junk he had there, and I found this thing, and it just caught my eye. So I'll give you a little bit of a better look at it. So it looks like it was made to almost like sit on the ways of a lathe or some piece of equipment. So you could loosen this nut, slide it along, and then tighten it back down again. And then on this side, it's got a serrated jaw. So it only closes down to that far. So I can't close it down any further than that. So whatever the heck it was supposed to hold was larger than that size, I guess, right? I haven't seen any markings on it. So I just thought it was an interesting piece, and he only wanted $2 for it. Actually, I think I might even said to him, would you take $2 for this? And he said, sure. And the funny thing was, after I bought this, he showed me some other stuff he ended up selling me for $1 a piece. So I probably could have got this for $1, but anyways. I found this little clamp, and I got this for $1, and he said this is a hose clamp. So the idea is, you know those soft rubber hoses they use in laboratories? The idea would be you would tighten this down on one of those hoses to shut off the flow of whatever liquid you were dispensing to your experiment or whatever, I guess, or gas or whatever. And then he said, oh, he says, and I have this style, and he was telling me how he brings these to the MIT flea market. So the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, world famous, they actually do a flea market out there. And there's a lot of cool stuff there. I've never been. One of these days I'm going to have to make my way out there and make a road trip and do a video. But anyways, I'm kind of scared to go because I'm worried about what I'm going to haul home, because there's a lot of electronic apparatus and junk that ends up being sold there. But this is a Fisher Scientific Jumbo Hosecock Castelloy R. And what's in here is just a larger version of one of these hose clamps. So your hose would run through here. This is made to be mounted to the table. There's a couple of screws in the box to screw it down to the lab table, right? And then when you want to shut off the flow, you just tighten this down and it clamps down on the hose and pinches it. So just for the heck of it, I checked to see if any of these have sold on eBay. None have sold, but there is one currently listed on eBay, new in the box, for $9.95, and it's actually in Saugus, Massachusetts. So I have a feeling maybe maybe that's the guy who sold me this one, because it seemed like he said he had a bunch of them, because he was selling these at the MIT Flea Market for 10 bucks a piece. Alright guys, that's going to bring this episode to a close. If you're not already a subscriber, please hit the subscribe button, and if you like the video, please hit the like button. Till next time, take care.